At a Hooters restaurant located in the Chicago suburb of Oak Lawn, police were called in to break up a fight between two workers on the afternoon of July the 20th of 2017. 25-year-old waitress Sarah Rivera got into an argument that escalated to violence with one of her co-workers identified as 24-year-old Debrecca L. Green. Although the cause of the altercation wasn't made clear, the two young women were arrested at around 5 p.m., both charged with misdemeanor disorderly conduct, according to police records. They were later released on $120 bonds. Number 10. Viral McDonald's Brawl. In late 2022, a massive brawl between two female McDonald's employees took social media by storm after a video of the violent incident emerged online. It was unclear where the physical altercation unraveled. The fight began when one of the workers threw a box of food in her co-worker's face. The two grabbed each other's hair and began landing punches as the situation devolved. At one point, one of the women was grabbed by the neck and slammed into the drive-through window. The altercation continued until other crew members finally stepped in to break them up. As the warring co-workers were separated, they continued to shout profanities at each other. A few moments later, the brawl resumed as one of the women pummeled the other in the head. Ultimately, the situation de-escalated after they were separated a second time. The video amassed over 10 million views online. There was very little additional information provided as the location, cause, and potential legal ramifications of the violent altercation weren't immediately disclosed. Number 9. Brittany Randolph Johnson and Milan Etheridge. On the outskirts of Atlanta, Georgia, a Stone Mountain middle school teacher and a paraprofessional were charged with disorderly conduct following a fight on May the 19th of 2017. The incident, which was caught on video by students, was sparked when one of the female employees pushed a desk into the other in a classroom. Subsequently, the two women slapped each other in the head and pushed one another into the whiteboard. Some of the students started screaming, while others tried to break up the fight but then stepped back as the brawl spiraled. Another staff member eventually intervened and separated the two women. After footage of the incident circulated, the school released a statement saying that the teacher's conduct was completely unacceptable and contrary to the core principles of the DeKalb County School District. The women involved, who were later identified as Brittany Randolph Johnson and Milan Etheridge, both aged 27, were consequently fired. Number 8. Chester McDonald's. An argument about who had to make apple pies at a McDonald's in Chester, South Carolina, resulted in a fistfight between two female crew members on May the 18th of 2016. The altercation unfolded at approximately 10 p.m. when a 30-year-old employee asked her 25-year-old co-worker to fry a new batch of pies. They squabbled with one another as the younger woman refused to make the pastries and hit her co-worker in the face, knocking her glasses off. A male customer told 13 News Now that he saw one of the women charging towards the other behind the counter while doing a flying punch. A glimpse of the dramatic moment, which was caught on video by patrons, showed the two women wrestling behind the counter. Eventually, other crew members stopped the fight, which law enforcement later labeled as a simple assault. However, it was unclear if either of the parties involved was charged. The video was uploaded on Facebook and accumulated over 90,000 views in less than 24 hours. Number 7. Delivius Tejon Gilbert. On March the 28th of 2023, a workplace dispute culminated in the fatal stabbing of 49-year-old Delivius Tejon Gilbert in Knightdale, North Carolina. At about 6:15 a.m. on the day in question, local officials received reports of a fight in progress at the Spectrum Drive business located off Hodge Road. Upon arrival, officers found Gilbert unconscious and suffering from multiple stab wounds. He was taken to Wake Med's trauma center where he later died. Officials said that the stabbing resulted from a prior argument between the victim and a male co-worker. Police detained a 43-year-old Raleigh man based on preliminary evidence. Meaningful developments came about after a video of the incident, which occurred in the business's break room, was recovered. The footage, which Knightdale Police Chief Lawrence Capps referred to as chilling, appeared to show Gilbert attacking his co-worker from behind, prompting the other man to fight back. Capps confirmed that it had been Gilbert who planned and launched the unprovoked attack. After the case was reviewed by the Wake County District Attorney's Office, the unnamed suspect was released from custody. Police said on March the 29th that the man, who also suffered deep head lacerations, wouldn't be charged. As of the latest updates, the case remained open with further investigation underway. Number 6. South Carolina Waffle House. A pair of South Carolina men working in a Hardyville Waffle House brawled inside the establishment shortly before 6 a.m. on January the 19th of 2019. A video of the violent fight, which garnered 100,000 views on YouTube, started with the two employees already in the midst of a struggle, resulting in one of them bleeding from the arm. After another man diffused the situation, the two were briefly separated, but continued in a heated verbal exchange. Subsequently, the staff member wearing a yellow shirt took two large knives and brandished them at his workmate in grey. The arguing continued and more fighting unfolded. A subsequent clip showed the eatery's windows shattered, which, according to the individual recording the video, was caused by the workers throwing things at each other. In the aftermath, the pair declined medical attention and no criminal charges were filed, according to the Hardyville police chief. Number 5. Charlotte Burger King. Staff at a Burger King in Charlotte, North Carolina, were caught on video fighting with one another on May the 26th of 2019. As a woman by the name of Rebecca Ramsey pulled up to the restaurant's drive-thru, she heard a male employee in a red shirt scolding a male co-worker, telling him not to disrespect female customers. He was reportedly referring to a woman who'd complained about her order. A heated confrontation then ensued between the two male employees as they started grappling with each other, slamming against the drive-thru window several times. 3 additional employees then intervened and separated the warring parties. Ramsey later posted the video on Facebook, where it went viral. Ultimately, Burger King's corporate office released a statement confirming that the 2 male employees involved had been fired, noting that their behavior, which didn't reflect their brand values, was unacceptable. Number 4. Rudy Gobert and Kyle Anderson. In the heat of an NBA playoff race on April the 9th of 2023, French basketball pro Rudy Gobert threw a punch at his teammate. During a timeout in the second quarter of a game against the New Orleans Pelicans, 30-year-old Gobert, a member of the Minnesota Timberwolves, got into a fiery dispute with Kyle Anderson, aged 29. On the bench, Anderson profanely urged Gobert to block more shots as the team was struggling. Subsequently, Gobert stepped closer and threw a punch to Anderson's chest. The latter then charged at Gobert, but another teammate immediately intervened and prevented the altercation from escalating further. Anderson was forcibly held back and ultimately walked away, while Gobert was escorted to the locker room. As the second half of the game was underway, the Timberwolves announced that Gobert was to be held out for the rest of the game. The team's president of basketball operations later said that Gobert's behavior was unacceptable and that they'd handle the situation internally. The next day, Gobert was suspended for 1 game. Number 3. Ebony and Jordan and Bianca Alexandria Strayhorn. On the night of December the 1st of 2016, 23-year-old Ebony and Jordan and Bianca Alexandria Strayhorn, aged 26, were arrested after triggering a brawl at a bar in Milwaukee. The incident took place at Mettler's Bar and Restaurants, where the 2 exotic dancers got into an argument with 2 co-workers. The verbal sparring escalated to pushing and shoving, which caught the attention of staff. Jordan and Strayhorn were ordered to leave, but both women refused and instead proceeded to assault the other 2 dancers. Local law enforcement were called to the establishment shortly after 9 p.m. Jordan and Strayhorn were leaving the scene in a vehicle when a responding officer arrived. They were repeatedly ordered to stop the car, but ignored the command and drove away. Eventually, the 2 women were stopped by another officer and taken into custody. According to a criminal complaint, Jordan had hit one of her co-workers near the eye with a stiletto and grabbed the other by the hair. The victim said that Strayhorn sprayed them with mace while Jordan was attacking them. The 2 suspects, both from Milwaukee, faced charges that included felony fleeing police, misdemeanor assault, disorderly conduct, and trespassing. Today's topic was requested by Jeff Tech. If you have any other topics you'd like to learn about, subscribe and let us know in the comments section below. Number 2. Morrow Walmart. 2 female Walmart employees got into a fight after they learned that their store manager, identified only as Wayne, had been sleeping with them both. Video footage, which was recorded at the store in Morrow, Georgia, showed a red-haired woman yelling and jumping demonstratively while being escorted away by another worker. The other woman, who had black hair, followed her and started to scream back. The black-haired woman subsequently used the store's intercom system to announce the manager's alleged affair. The video was uploaded on TikTok in October of 2022 and went viral with over 2.1 million views. If you missed our video on Family Feuds a while back, then we have that one lined up next for you after number 1. Stay tuned if you'd like to see that one as well. Number 1. Anthony Field. On December the 9th of 2011, a Christmas party at an investment firm in East London's Queen of Hoxton bar descended into a violent brawl that stemmed from infidelity. According to the Daily Mail, 26-year-old Robert Nicholson found out about an affair that had been going on between his fiancée, 24-year-old Alex Miller, and his colleague, Anthony Field. The Bruin Dolphin stockbroker confronted Field about the matter. Nicholson grabbed him and a fight broke out involving 6 other co-workers. In the aftermath, Field was left with 2 black eyes as well as other facial injuries. Nicholson and 2 other employees, 26-year-old Graham Sutherland and Gary Jones, aged 32, were later arrested by police. Charges brought against the suspects included assault occasioning actual bodily harm and affray. During the trial at Snaresbrook Crown Court in December of the following year, Field gave testimony in which he insisted that he hadn't known Miller was Nicholson's fiancée. Nicholson admitted affray and was told by Judge Joanna Corner that he'd probably receive a community penalty. Judge Corner told the jury that the harm inflicted that night seemed to have been caused by the other people involved, not Nicholson. The latter and Sutherland were ultimately cleared of assault. Jones admitted smashing a glass bottle over Field's head during the fight, but it wasn't clear how he was punished by the court. Number 8. The Disneyland Dust Up. A family dispute escalated into an all-out brawl in the Mickey's Toontown section of Disneyland on July the 6th of 2019. A video recorded by an uninvolved bystander captured the entire ordeal and subsequently went viral. The footage showed a man in a pink shirt identified as Avery Robinson, aged 35, aggressively shouting at a woman pushing a stroller, who was later revealed to be Avery's 40-year-old sister, Andrea Robinson. Andrea spits in her brother's face, triggering a physical altercation between the 2 siblings that also came to involve Andrea's husband, Damon Petrie. Avery's girlfriend also intervened in the struggle after she'd initially attempted to break up the fight. Punches were thrown from all sides as onlookers gathered around the skirmish. A few people even tried to step in and stop the violence, as shown at various stages of the 4-minute video. An elderly woman in a mobility scooter, identified as Avery's mother, was knocked over at one point, while the children in the stroller were pulled out of harm's way by concerned witnesses. When park security finally showed up at the scene, the incident had already come to a conclusion. Upon being interviewed by Anaheim police, members of the Robinson family outright denied that a fight between them had ever taken place. Their assertions were promptly disproven when the authorities got a hold of the viral video chronicling the brawl. All 3 of the individuals primarily responsible for the altercation were criminally charged, with Avery Robinson being sentenced to 6 months in prison in February of 2020. Andrea Robinson and Damon Petrie failed to show up for their trials, and warrants were then issued for their arrests. They faced maximum sentences of 2.5 years and 6 months in jail, respectively. Number 7. Heidi Creamer and Holly Ryan. On December the 7th of 2014, a 48-year-old Florida woman assaulted her twin sister after the 2 got into a dispute over an adult toy. Heidi Creamer shared an apartment in Bradentown with her boyfriend and her sister, Holly Ryan. The 2 siblings reportedly had some sort of heated disagreement that afternoon regarding Creamer's partner and an intimate device she owned. Creamer escalated the argument by physically attacking her sister. Ryan was punched, scratched, and her hair was pulled over the course of the altercation. Creamer then gathered all of her belongings and brought them outside, at which point Ryan locked her sister out of the apartment. The injured woman went out on the balcony and began calling out to her neighbors for help. The authorities were contacted, and the police officer who arrived at the scene found a bloodied Ryan still on the balcony. Creamer was subsequently arrested and taken to Manatee County Jail. She had previously faced charges of drunk driving and assault in connection to unrelated incidents from her past. Number 6. Solange, Knowles, and JayZ. After attending a Met Gala after-party on May the 5th of 2014, Brooklyn rap mogul JayZ was violently attacked by his sister-in-law, Solange Knowles, in the elevator of a Manhattan hotel. Surveillance footage from the hotel security cameras was subsequently distributed online by tabloid news outlet TMZ. The video depicted the rapper still donning the white tuxedo he'd worn to the gala as he is repeatedly punched and kicked by an enraged Knowles. All the while, his wife, renowned music artist Bianca, watched on. Knowles was eventually pulled off by a bodyguard who was in the elevator with the celebrity trio. There were subsequent reports that Knowles had been involved in multiple bizarre interactions throughout the evening, including an argument with fashion designer Rachel Roy. At the post-gala event, Knowles had become intoxicated and belligerent. Tension soon boiled over in the elevator when JayZ made a remark to which Knowles took exception. While the incident was widely publicized due to the fame and popularity of the individuals involved, both JayZ and Knowles have consistently downplayed their feud significance in the years since. Number 5. Sylvester Afori and Barbara Tommy. A pastor and self-proclaimed prophet by the name of Sylvester Afori, aged 35, fatally shot his estranged wife outside the bank where she worked on September the 8th of 2020. The murder of 27-year-old Barbara Tommy occurred just a day after a heated confrontation between Afori and Tommy's brother, during which the pastor claimed he would be a fake man of God if he didn't kill his wife. Afori also referred to Tommy as a witch during the video-recorded shouting match. Tommy's brother advised her to file a police report following her husband's threat, but she expressed hesitancy to do so for fear of escalating the situation even further. An armed Afori confronted Tommy at her place of work the following morning. Witnesses described seeing the man holding a firearm as he followed his wife to the front doors of the Navy Federal Credit Union in Orlando, Florida. Tommy knocked on the door hoping someone would let her inside, at which point Afori fired multiple rounds into her head. He walked back to his car and drove away as if nothing had happened, according to bank patrons at the scene of the crime. Police officers were alerted and they found Afori at his apartment later that day. He was arrested on a charge of first-degree murder. Number 4. Adam Roth. On March the 10th of 2020, a 36-year-old man named Adam Roth stabbed 4 of his family members, killing 2 of them while they were sharing a meal in the kitchen of their home in Waukesha, Wisconsin. Roth reportedly first took the knife to his wife Dominique, stabbing her multiple times. As the rest of the family watched on in horror, Dominique's mother and her 2 sisters pleaded with Roth to stop, at which point he turned his attention towards the others and attacked them as well. The vicious onslaught led to the deaths of Roth's wife, sister-in-law, and the family dog, while his other sister-in-law and mother-in-law were both badly injured. In an interview with law enforcement the following day, Roth divulged the motivation for his gruesome crime. He had apparently grown increasingly paranoid that the coronavirus would infect his family, and the violent outburst was his purported way of saving them from the infectious disease. While he admitted to the attacks, Roth pleaded not guilty by reason of mental illness to multiple charges of first-degree murder and attempted first-degree murder. According to doctors ordered to evaluate Roth's mental health, the man had experienced a decline in his psychiatric stability in the period leading up to the deadly incident. Number 3. Jeffrey Burnham. A pharmacist named Brian Robinette was shot dead in Ellicott City, Maryland, by his brother, who claimed Robinette was killing people by administering them the COVID-19 vaccine. In addition to his brother, 46-year-old Burnham also claimed the lives of his sister-in-law and his mother's childhood friend, Rebecca Reynolds, during his deranged killing spree, which occurred on September the 30th of 2021. The first victim was Reynolds, aged 83. She was stabbed to death inside her home, after which Burnham absconded with her car, driving 2 hours in order to confront his brother. Police investigating Reynolds' murder found the stolen vehicle not far from Robinette's residence. When they went to the pharmacist's home to ask about his brother's whereabouts, they discovered that both Robinette and his wife had succumbed to fatal gunshot wounds. The ensuing manhunt for Burnham continued into the following week. He was eventually found in West Virginia and extradited back to Maryland. He was charged with multiple counts of first-degree murder. On several occasions prior to the deadly events, Burnham's mother had contacted the authorities to express concerns over her son's mental health and stability. Number 2. Samuel Hannah and Calvin Scott. An argument over a scratched car ultimately led to the fatal stabbing of 43-year-old Calvin Scott of East Orange, New Jersey, on February the 8th of 2021. Based on an account given by Scott's soon-to-be niece, Clarissa Price, police were able to determine that the man's death was precipitated by a hostile altercation he'd had with Price's uncle, Samuel Hannah. Scott reportedly blamed Hannah for a noticeable scrape on his car, for which Hannah subsequently denied all responsibility. The argument devolved into a physical altercation between the two men after Scott punched Hannah over the alleged scratching. The situation took a deadly turn when Hannah retaliated by pulling out a knife and thrusting it into his attacker several times. Scott was taken to University Hospital in Newark, but eventually passed away from his wounds. 7 family members had been living under the same roof for more than a year prior to the incident. Price claimed that tempers had been running high in the weeks and days leading up to the stabbing as a result of the cramped living space, and Scott's death was an unfortunate byproduct of the rising tensions. Number 1. The Gomez family Thanksgiving. On Thanksgiving Day 2018, Martina Gomez, aged 63, was killed by her niece in the midst of a brutal family fight in Lawrence, Massachusetts. 23-year-old Modesta Gomez had become embroiled in an argument with her cousin on Snapchat earlier that evening, before eventually deciding to drive to the family home in order to confront her in person. When Modesta arrived, her cousin was already on the floor and engaged in a physical conflict with another female relative. Modesta took the opportunity to strike her cousin while she was distracted on the ground. Martina then intervened in the altercation by grabbing hold of Modesta's hair. During the ensuing fight between the two, a punch thrown by Modesta connected and knocked her aunt unconscious. The police were contacted and showed up to the Gomez residence at about 10 p.m. They were notified of the brawl that had transpired between the family members earlier in the evening, and they proceeded to perform CPR on an unresponsive Martina Gomez. The victim was promptly transported to Lawrence General Hospital, where she would later pass away from the injuries inflicted by her niece. Modesta left the house once the fight had ended, but upon learning she was wanted by the authorities, turned herself into the Lawrence Police Department. She was held in custody without bail as she awaited sentencing.
Thanks for watching. Would you rather work in a chaotic environment with obnoxious co-workers, or at a funeral home primarily working with dead bodies? Let us know in the comments section below.